Welcome to the Aussie Game Podcast, where we talk all things Australian football. Premier League heavyweights Tottenham and Chelsea have arrived on our shores, and there's one player in particular who will be of interest to Socceroos fans. The transfer market is heating up with Socceroos and Matildas on the move. We'll discuss who else might be likely to be packing their bags. Back home, the APL and PFA continue to butt heads ahead of the upcoming A-League season, but clubs continue to build their squads. A Socceroo in some trouble and cup sets galore in the Australia Cup Mopper.
Yes, lots of action, and a couple of leagues kick off next week, so it's about to really hot up and see where our players are in, and a couple obviously trying to qualify for Europe as well, so lots to look at and lots to talk about tonight.
Right, mate, let's start off, as I said, Chelsea and Tottenham. Can I still call Tottenham a big club? Maybe not. But anyway, let's talk about Chelsea anyway, because they have included young 16-year-old Mahdi Nicoll-Jazuli as part of their travelling squad to Australia. We know that he recently signed or re-signed with Chelsea, one of their contracts, and he does have Australian links, having been born in Sydney in January 2010 to an Australian mother and Sudanese father. So very exciting. He has played through the youth system in England, so it might be a stretch to be getting him to play for the Socceroos, but I think it's exciting for Socceroos fans to at least have a look at him when he's out here playing for Chelsea, and he's very highly rated in the Chelsea system, so worth Football Australia maybe if he's out here having a word in his ear.
Yeah, well, we've seen this situation pop up for a lot of players, and it's quite common in the game. And it's not just England, Australia, it's Sudan as well. You know, he's got multiple opportunities, and it just depends again on the young fella. If again he's still got a young career, he's still got to progress through the ranks to even to be considered for senior squads. Look, all avenues will lead to whatever's the best possibility for him in the end, and that's what's normally based on the decision of these players. If you look at England, look at some of the players they left out, Chief, in the last World Cup. So, look, it'd be a hard stretch and a hard road to get to be an England international. It'd be something would take an extraordinary effort to get there. Australia, no doubt, would be an opportunity, but again, our depth is quite good as well, but not to the depths of England. So, yeah, he might choose that Australian route. I guess the question is for the Australian link, has anybody reached out? Because the challenge is he's played 14 caps for England in 16s and 17s, scoring 10 goals. So has that conversation happened yet? We're not privy to, but again, these are the things that FFA needs to look out for at a much earlier age. We've discussed this on many podcasts. And even Sudan, like, you know, again, an emerging country trying to build on their own football. So, again, it will come down to the personal choice of what he thinks best at the time, if he can continue, because he's only very young, like you said, and, you know, there's still a lot more football to be played until this 16-year-old really gets to that senior level.
Yeah, definitely, mate. And yeah, obviously the under-20 Asian Cup is upcoming as well. So whether that's an opportunity to get him into some of these Australian youth ranks, if it's even of interest, you know, you got to be careful with these things. And just because he was born in Australia doesn't necessarily mean that that's where his allegiance is going to lie now or into the future. He's described as a naturally attacking midfielder, but also comfortable as a 6, an 8, or a 10. Known for his close control, vision, composure in possession, and ability to break lines with his passing. So, sounds like a real prospect, and I really hope that we get to see him. They play the Wanderers on Tuesday night upcoming, and then they play Spurs on Saturday night. So, fingers crossed we get to see a little bit of his contributions and get to see the type of player, if there is any chance that we might see him in an Australian jersey in the future.
Yeah, no doubt the media will be asking these questions too, Chief, and that's a really good point about the 20s. They've got some important tournaments coming up, and so does 17. So it'd be interesting if those conversations do start, because we have seen a number of players play both for both countries. So at that junior level, because there's no obviously penalty. So the opportunity for him is just to get international exposure. So he might take up both options because that's on the table. These players can do that these days.
Yeah, we've said the same with Gianluca Ogonenza, haven't we? You know, playing in the Italy teams as a youth player, but you know, obviously his brother and his dad are Socceroos, so yeah,
Skoko's the
there's
same.
yeah, exactly the same,
Yeah, Junior
exactly the same.
Skoko. Yep. Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
So there's every chance that, and as you said before, it's like, you know, these youth tournaments they're on, you know, you get called up, there's no penalty, you're not tied to this nation. It's about playing the highest quality football that you can. So it'd be interesting to see what Chelsea are planning with him. Although he is a part of the Australian squad, we know that there's obviously several Chelsea players who were at the World Cup and are obviously being rested as part of these preparations. But look, it's an exciting thing for a 16-year-old of any nationality to be coming out and showing his stuff. So it's exciting for the kid, and let's hope that we get to see him. As I said,
Yeah, absolutely. Exciting times, and yeah, great to see Chelsea and Tottenham on Australian shores.
let's talk Mopper about a couple of transfers. There's been a couple of big ones this week. I wanted to start actually with Holly McNamara signing with Everton in the WSL. We know that she's had a horror run of injuries with her ACLs. Performed extremely well for Melbourne City in and around those injuries, and has picked up this big move to Everton.
What a cracking move this is for her, and what the right club too. I just must say a perfect opportunity for her in Everton. Obviously, Everton were down the lower end of the table, but she'll get great time there and a great opportunity. Claire Wheeler plays there as well. So, yeah, like a good little Matilda in there to help her through. But she's always had the talent, always had the ability, always had plenty of potential. And I just think this is a cracking club and a cracking move for Holly McNamara, who scored 38 goals in 54 appearances for Melbourne City, and as a Matilda, capped 19 times with a couple of goals. And we just seen the unearthing of her last year, didn't we? So I think she'll develop even better. And she's now at the right club to progress her career after, like you said, that injury riddled couple of years, but she's still only 23. But super excited that she's gone to Everton, a club which I think she can start and have a real impact with.
Yeah, definitely, mate. And look, I think even from a Matilda's perspective, we know we've got the World Cup next year. Sam Kerr's obviously landed over in the US and has started really well over there. But we are really looking for that next contingency plan for around that striking option. We have tried Michelle Heyman while Sam Kerr was injured, who did a good job. But at 23, as you said, she really is the next one coming through that can be that number 9 for the Matildas for a long period of time. And I think if she can hit the ground running, and we have seen with the WSL, the top is very competitive, but some of the middle and towards the bottom, the standard isn't actually as good, anywhere near as good as the top. So if she can find her feet there at Everton and score plenty of goals, build her confidence, I think she's in for a big 12 months or so leading into that World Cup.
Yeah, Everton come eighth last year, Chief, 23 points, but had a really low goals for it, only 25 goals for 22 matches, which is one of the lowest in the league. So this is what I mean about taking a great opportunity. I think this is going to be awesome. And yeah, Everton aren't the worst of that lot, but like you said, that it does drop off a fair bit once you get outside that top four in that Women's Super League.
All right, another Matilda on her way to the WSL is Leah Davidson. She's heading off to Charlton. So a few Aussies over at Charlton now, having been promoted from WSL 2 last season. But another great move for Leah Davidson.
Oh, look, again, the right club. I love it. And well done to Leah. She's a Brisbane Roar, Melbourne City Ninja League player, 91 caps over here. And now she finally gets her opportunity and capped for the Matildas 4 times with 1 goal. And I think Charlton, the right club to start with to immerse herself in this league. And I think this is a fantastic story, isn't it? That I love the fact that these girls are picking really solid clubs to start with. And she's 25 and a midfielder. I think she's going to have a great opportunity to get some more game time. The Women's Super League, I was a bit worried. We lost a couple at the end of the year there that had finished up, but now we've just seen with Charlton coming in and obviously McNamara signed for Everton that the numbers are starting to increase again, which is where we want our girls to play because it's a fantastic league.
Staying in England, Marcus Neal has signed his first professional contract with Sunderland. Obviously, the Black Cats did very well in the Premier League last season, having been promoted, and he tipped them to go straight back down, but they qualified for Europe. So I don't know whether Marcus will appear in too many of their first team games, but you never know. He's been pretty prolific in their youth ranks for the last couple of seasons. So yeah, you just never know what might happen for Marcus Neal, but an exciting time for him and thoroughly deserved from the highlights and from the stats that I've seen.
Oh, mate, he's killing it at junior level. We've watched him, haven't we, rise, and he's been capped with the younger Joeys 10 times now. So we've definitely got him on the radar. He is definitely a Socceroo through and through in the junior ranks, and yeah, he's played with the 23s a couple of times last year at a few League Cup contests. So he's had mixed it with a few bigger senior boys. Interesting with now he's pro. Where does he go? I think in the next 12 months it'd be nice to see him develop and then maybe look for a loan move. Obviously Sunderland are in Europe though, Chief, as well, aren't they this year? So there might be stretch. So there might be a small inkling that we might see a Premier League debut. Like fingers crossed anyway. So you never know. He might get on the bench or he might be in that reckoning because they're going to need a big squad. There's so much with the Premier League, League Cup, FA Cup, and Europe involved. They're going to be stretched, Sunderland, and you never know. They might give him a crack.
I think early rounds of the League Cup, he's definitely in with a shot. As you said, if they're trying to compete on the continent and in the Premier League as well, I think that yeah, the potential to roll out a younger team in those League Cup, those first rounds of the League Cup, I think that's definitely going to be his shot at showing the manager what he can do. But yeah, congratulations to Marcus, very thoroughly deserved. We've also seen another Socceroo on the move, Ajdin Hrustic. He's gone to Al Nasr SC in the UAE. Interesting move for Hrustic. You probably would have liked to see him stay in Europe, but I think he's about 30 years old now. Probably, yeah, looking at probably fixing up his finances and making sure he's sorted because I don't know. I thought he played okay in the World Cup games that we saw, and we know on his day he can be a great player. But maybe he's seen the writing on the wall for some of those youngsters coming through and figured it's time to cash in.
Yeah, look, he's right. You're right, Chief. He's 30, and senior at Socceroo at 39 caps. So he'd be on the cusp, wouldn't he? Going there now. Does that give you enough exposure internationally? He could be at risk with this move, I think, with the Socceroos. I think with the next generation coming through, I wouldn't be surprised if he's. Look, I know it's a big call, but I wouldn't be surprised if he's left out of the Asia Cup squad with this move.
No, I think you're right. I think the only thing in his favour would be the fact that he's playing in the region where the tournament is being held. But the standard of the league compared to where some of his Socceroos teammates are going to be playing, I think it's well below. So, yeah, look, I wouldn't be surprised at all if he's left out of the Asian Cup squad, which is a shame because I feel like for him, ever since that Europa League final that he won, his career's kind of petered out a little bit. There's been some injuries and there's been some probably bad decisions in terms of club moves, but it just hasn't quite hit the peak of where he was around that Europa League final.
Yeah, you're right. We wish him all the best, though. Like he's going for first team football, obviously too. We can't forget that. So look, hopefully it does go okay in Asian Champions League, right? Are they in Asian Champions League? I'd have to double check that. And he gets some standard of football, I guess. So, but yeah, you're right. It is a risk when you go over there, and it gets quite forgotten about. It's not held in as much as prestige as what those European leagues are. But he's got to look after himself in first team football. So yeah, it's a hard one for him. But yeah, look, let's see if it's when that squad's picked in October, whether he's in that reckoning or not. It'll paint an early picture, I reckon.
Yeah, I think you're right, mate. Also, we've seen a couple of names come back to the A League. We're not going to do a full wrap of all the transfers in, but we wanted to pick out a couple in particular. Max Court caught your eye up by going to Brisbane Roar.
Oh, I think it's sensational. RP Leichhardt, they've produced a couple of players now, haven't they? They've done really well. And yeah, Maxi Court, he's represented the Joeys 9 times for 3 goals, 2 assists. We think he's a prestigious talent. I think he's going there for first team A League football. I think Brisbane's going to give him a great opportunity. They lost a couple of key players in that position. So I think this kid's got a very big future. And hopefully we see a lot of it with the A League, how it's obviously going to format this year, and I think Maxi Court's got a lot of people got an eye on him, Chief. And I think with the football that's available at Brisbane Roar, he's gone for it, and good pickup for the Roar. And I think they've got a prestigious talent.
The Raw were interesting, weren't they? Because they had a massive clean out, and a lot of Raw fans I saw questioning what the club was doing. But they all, bit by bit, they've started to build this squad, and I think you're right. Max Court will definitely get an opportunity in this squad. They've cleared out the likes of like Jacob Brissett, who's gone to Adelaide United. Quinn McNicoll, we obviously know, has moved on as well. So there are these opportunities in the squad, and you're right about Apia. They're producing some fantastic young players that are ending up in the A League. So we wish Max all the best up in Queensland. Nicholas Milanovic, we've seen as well. He's gone back to the Wanderers after a season in Aberdeen. Not the best season in Aberdeen, unfortunately, for Nicholas Milanovic. He was part of that Socceroos squad and got some minutes against New Zealand, but really was out of the picture for Aberdeen and for the Socceroos from that point, unfortunately. But back to the Wanderers. Wanderers fans are very thrilled about this, and we know what he can do, what we saw him do a couple of seasons back in the A League for the Wanderers.
Yeah, massive signing for the Wanderers. They would be absolutely tickle pink with this one. He just needs to get back and play football, doesn't he? It just didn't work out at Aberdeen at the end there, did it? It was just getting from bad to worse. An injury too. Just nothing seemed to go right at that club. And I don't think Scottish Premier League for his playing style is the right playing style. I think it's a more a Dutch or Belgium, and maybe with another year in the A League, he might just be able to, find it. Find it. He'll find Europe again. He's too good not to. I believe he's not. I wouldn't say he's elite, but he's definitely a good player, and he's good enough to go over to Europe. It just didn't work out this time. But the Wanderers, as we know, he's previously known at the club for his success, and will just, I think, push on in the years ahead.
Yeah, definitely, mate. A couple more bits of transfer activity. Well, this one was interesting. A former Socceroo, David Carney, appointed first team coach at League Two side Swindon Town, working under former Premier League manager Ian Holloway. So another one of our Socceroos he was probably just past that golden generation, but another one popping up on the touchline.
Yeah, look, we've seen a few coaches pop up over there as assistants and coaches, haven't we, in these lower leagues? It's starting to get more common. Yeah, we wish him well. Look, Ian Holloway, he's been around the world, around those lower leagues, hasn't he? And made the Premier League a couple of times. So yeah, I think that's a good space for him. And if that's his ambition, yeah, good luck to him. I think it's a good move.
The final one for transfer activity. This one heavily linked but not confirmed yet. We've seen Lucas Smith be linked to Notts County. Now, Mopper, Lucas Smith's been banging in the goals in the Finnish league. He was formerly at Sydney FC, but linked to Notts County, who are now in League One. And they've obviously done their scouting and recruitment and identified him. I think he's 22, but prolific goal scorer in Finland, and be very interesting to follow his progress if he ends up in Notts County.
Yeah, it's a great pickup, mate. He's Sydney FC 2 and Central Coast Mariners 2. So he played in the reserve teams, obviously in the state leagues. He scored 15 goals in 50 games for both those clubs. And VPS 2, who was in, he scored way too many goals. In the 8 appearances, 16 goals. And VPS, when he got into the first team, 7 goals and 21 appearances. League One might be a good starting point for him. And obviously, That's a great pickup. He's only 22, hasn't yet represented us at international level. He's kind of gone under the radar, but he's a big forward, isn't he? 1.92 meters. So, yeah, look forward to seeing how he goes. Again, a bit more of a presence in League One. We had a few players there last year. So, yeah, exciting times.
All right, mate. Let's go to a little bit of on-field action. This morning we saw Marcus Eunice play 90 minutes in Bromby's season opener as they draw 1-1 with AGF. Big season upcoming for Marcus Eunice. If he can continue that form he showed in the back end of the A-League season for Melbourne City, he might be onto a good thing over there in Denmark. During the week, we saw Viking win away 2-1 with a full game for Gianni Stensnes, and they're first by 1 point, but they've got a couple of games in hand, I believe. So yeah, Viking and Gianni Stensnes going very well over there in Norway. In the Czech Republic, we saw Garang Kwol get 8 minutes off the bench in Sparta Prague's 3-1 season opening loss. And we've also seen a bit of action in the US, Mopper.
Yes, Colorado win 1-0. Lucas Harrington, a late midweek sub. Only got a couple of minutes, but that's okay. He's back in the squad. And this morning he played a full game, 90 minutes in a 1-0 loss to St. Louis City. So he's bang back in the action in the MLS. Charlotte, 2-2 against Atlanta. Archie Goodwin starting again and playing 61 minutes midweek, and then gets 8 minutes off the bench in a 2-0 win over New York Bulls. So we're starting to see Archie get a little bit more time, which is good. And Kyle Rolls plays 80 minutes in DC United's 2-1 win, having a much better year, aren't they, Kyle Rolls, over Toronto. So good news
They're
there
in
for
the
the Aussie
playoffs, mate.
boys. Oh, I love it. I love it. That last year they couldn't even buy a win. So no, I'm sure Kai Rolls is feeling a lot better.
All right, and over in the WSL, Sam Kerr scored her first goal for Gotham FC. She flicked on the header and then she smashed it home from close range past Matilda's teammate Mackenzie Arnold, and with the match against Portland finishing 2-2.
Yes.
All right, back to some European qualification. We saw Motherwell pick up a 2-0 win during the week. Fair few Aussies in contention here. So we had Kiwi Alex Paulson in goals. Jake Gilbert Reich, he made his debut for Motherwell. And Oscar Priestman started and played the full 90 in midfield, picking up an assist as well. So fantastic result for Motherwell to kick off their European campaign.
Yep, they've got a second leg to go away, but look pretty comfortable in that game, didn't they? And Oscar Priestman, we've seen him break through late in Motherwell's season last year, and there's now starting. That is a great sign for Oscar. He really did well at that back half of the year with Motherwell, so he's been rewarded for another stellar pre-season. So look for big things from all those players this year.
Unfortunately, it wasn't as good a result for Hibs, who lost 2-0 to a Kosovan team. And yeah, they got a bit of work to do in the return leg. Martin Boyle started in this one, played 68 minutes, and Jack Idle played the first half before being pulled off at half time. So yeah, a bit of work for Hibernian to do, and geez, they'd be disappointed in that 2-0 result.
Oh, especially they conceded in the 90th minute, an absolute killer. But again, they're back home. I wouldn't still put it past them. I don't think Malsheva's the strongest side, so I do think an early goal in that one will put Hibernian probably back Hibs back in the driving seat. So, but it'll go down the wire now. They have to get 2 goals just to equalise. So, but they are at home, so that's a positive.
Obviously, there's plenty of friendlies going on at the moment before the season proper starts, either next week or in a couple of weeks' time for a lot of the leagues. But one that piqued my interest, Mopper, was ADO Den Haag picking up a 4-0 win. Cam Pupian didn't start in this one, but he came off the bench and provided a nice assist for ADO Den Haag's fourth goal of the match. So big season ahead for Cam Pupian to see if he can push his credentials for the Socceroos.
Yeah, well, he's going to get plenty of opportunity, isn't he? He played a lot of games last year, and he's probably at the right age profile now, to really push on. So he's going to get exposure, that's for sure, and plenty of games coming up for him this year, no doubt, in a much tougher league.
All right, Mopper. I thought we might just have a quick look back at the Socceroos who played in the World Cup. We spoke before the tournament about how this is a massive shop window for moves for a few of the Socceroos, and we've seen already that a few of them have moved. But I just wanted to get your point of view, and I'll share mine as well, as to whether we think that any who haven't moved so far are likely to get a move post the World Cup and in this transfer window. So let's start with the keepers. Obviously, we know Patrick Beach has already got his move to Troyes in France. What about the other two? Matty Ryan, his contract is finished at Levante, so he's obviously going to go somewhere. Paul Izzo at Randers. What do you think of either of those two?
I think Paul Izzo probably should stay. He's starting. No dramas there. Randers, good competition. And Matt Ryan has been linked back to Belgium. No doubt he will move. I don't think he'll be re-signed after Levante. Obviously, I thought they would have already done that deal if he was going to stay. So, yeah, maybe a Belgium trip. I don't think he'll come back to Australia. I think he's got one more year left in him in Europe to really have another crack over there somewhere in either country. He's their experienced keeper, so I'm surprised there's not more suitors.
All right, let's go into our back line. Jacob Italiano, Grazer, AK, obviously out injured at the moment.
Nah, Stay was going well last year. He missed a lot of football though. He was in and out, wasn't he? So I think Stay just keep trying to build on what he's built on this year. He's got a good opportunity at right wing back. So you want to be safe somewhere to keep playing football.
Jason Guerrier at Alberix Nagata in Japan.
Nah, look, he's been in Japan for a while. He'll stay there. I don't think there's anything else for him. I think J League's probably a good standard for where he's at now.
Kai Truan at New York City, obviously currently injured at the moment.
Yeah, currently only moved there late, obviously only early in the summer transfer here in January. So he'll stay in MLS. He'll get a good season under his belt there, and is in good company with New York. And yeah, I think at this early stage would need to see a full season with the MLS because he joined there late obviously in the Australian calendar.
Alessandro Gicardi, obviously currently at Parma, but linked to a lot of different clubs, particularly elsewhere in the Serie A.
I think he'll go. I wouldn't be surprised if he lands in England. I think,
Ooh, Premier
yep,
League.
yep. I think Premier League. I think he's going to be our next big thing. I think there's a lot of Premier League clubs that would want him. It's going to be interesting which club finds their way to him, but I think England Premier League is where he's going to be going. I don't think he'll do this area. I think he'll move over. I think there'll be opportunities over there in the Premier League for him to get straight in there. I reckon go for it. Why not? I wouldn't be fearful of any club that he goes to actually because I think he can really push his claims. Especially I think with half the Premier League teams in Europe as well, there's going to be a lot of opportunity over there.
Oh, interesting, mate. Interesting. All right, Harry Suter, obviously on the books of Leicester City, who have been relegated to League One. So we're not expecting him to stay at Leicester City, but where does he go? He's been linked to Wrexham. Could we see him appearing on the Welcome to Wrexham documentary next season?
Yeah, definitely Wrexham or the even back to Scotland. In the Scotland Premier League, I think would be a good move for him. I think he just needs to again have a full season, which he hasn't had for a long time. So I think Championship's probably his peak level. I'd love to see him in the Premier League, but probably I don't think there'll be enough suitors for him. But I think Scotland Premier League would be a good landing spot at the top three clubs. But haven't seen much transfer links with him or much talk around which one apart from Wrexham. So Wrexham would no doubt would want someone of that experience.
The other two clubs that I've seen him linked with are Sheffield United and Stoke City. Obviously, both former
Played
clubs.
there. Yeah,
Yeah, both
yeah.
former clubs of his. So it'd be a reunion for either of them. Chris Wilder was a massive fan of him at when he was on loan at Sheffield United, and it's when he had his best spell since moving to Leicester City. So could we see a reunion at Sheffield United? That would be very interesting for sure. Our next player is Milos Degenek, currently playing in Cyprus at Apoel.
Yeah, had a few problems there last year late, didn't he? But then he got back in the squad. So I don't know. I think he should leave, but I don't know where he'd land. I just don't like where he's playing at the moment. It's just, I don't know what happened in that later part of start of the season over there. He just fell out of favour. And yeah, I think he needs to get moving. But has he got enough suitors? I'm not sure.
Saw him linked with the Wanderers at one point. I don't know if that has much validity to that rumor, but that would be a massive pickup for the Wanderers
Yeah.
if they're able to pull that one off.
Yeah.
All right, Lucas Harrington has been linked to every single club in the whole entire world. So where does he
Well,
go?
I don't mind if he goes anywhere, but I think he should be loaned back for a year. Yeah, he needs to play football. I don't want to. I get the prestige of a big club, but is he going to start? Maybe he is. Maybe I'm being yeah, a bit cautious. But when you get to those big clubs, only very few start at his age. I'd love to see him go to Barca. I think they've got a great opportunity for definitely his passing style, and they've got a young centre back star anyway. But
Mm.
I think you could get a lot of development over there. It'd be love to see him in that kind of environment. And I don't think they're too deep in central defenders either. So, yeah, look, if it was my choice, I'd pick Barca. That would be massive. And they did show interest, so I think that would be at the pinnacle. But I don't know. I still would like to see him loaned back for another year. I know, probably people call me probably crazy for saying that statement. I just don't want to see him go somewhere and not get game time.
Yeah, fair enough. All right, Cam Burgess at Swansea City.
Yeah, stay there. He's a stalwart. Obviously, he moved to Swansea last year, but played every game. He's just a rock. And yeah, stay there, keep going. He's doing a good job. And it was just a bit unfortunate, wasn't it, the way the World Cup panned out for him with that American game. I thought that was a bit harsh, but when you got Lucas Harrington, future star there too, he's got some heaps of competition. So just stay where you are and keep playing football.
Fair enough. Geordie Boss at Feyenoord.
Stay there. They're in Europe. Wait. Do what Emerton did and just bide your time. If Feyenoord wasn't in Europe, I would have said move, but they're in Europe and he's got to come back from the injury, so he ain't going nowhere.
I think he's got one more season at Feyenoord, and then I can see him making the move after
Yeah,
that. So
100%. Yep. Get
yeah.
back fit and get that European football when he's ready, and then he'll have the Asia Cup and he'll have plenty of football there too to finish off at Feyenoord. So I think he'll be primed for a move next year.
All right, Aziz Behich, Melbourne City.
Yeah, he's not going nowhere. He's part of Melbourne City for a while now. So yeah, I think he'll retire there.
All right, to the midfield, Paul Okonengsler. The deal with FC Cologne only got finalised or announced this week. Apparently, he was sick and that held it up or something like that. But that's finally finalised and over the line. So looking forward to seeing. I saw some pictures of him at training today. So he's getting stuck into it straight away. Cam Devlin, as we know, has moved from Hearts up to Rangers. Jackson Irvine, interesting one. Obviously, he's been told he can look at options. Is that right? Is that what you said last week?
The club wanted clarification on what he
Okay.
wants to do. Yeah, so they wanted clarity, but obviously because the World Cup's finished, he's been away. A new system is set up there, so I think the coach just probably wants clarity. I wouldn't mind tipping, although he's entrenched in that St. Pauli club. It might be an option for him to go to the MLS as well in the future.
Yeah, interesting to see what happens with Jackson Irvine. Aiden O'Neill at New York City FC, obviously coming back from injury as well. What a heroic effort it was if he carried that injury all throughout the World Cup and performed as well as he did.
Yeah, got a lot of plaudits. He has been an unheralded good player for us, hasn't he? He's been in Popper's plans. He's Popper's number one midfielder. If you look back at the last 12 months, he's picked him all the time. So, yeah, he's happy there. Looks happy at New York. Would he test himself back in Europe? He did have a crack at it. Was he with Burnley? I think it was one of the clubs. I can't remember. But
He moved he moved from Belgium to New York, and there was some kind of rumors around that time that he was moved because of the financial issues that the club was having, and that wasn't kind of fully clarified. That was just rumored, but yeah, interesting for him. I saw him linked to some clubs in the Championship, which I could see him
yeah, be that.
going and having a
Yeah,
go at.
absolutely. That's a good standard. Yeah, Belgium, Dutch. I think his game style suits all three. I'd love to. I know he's probably happy at New York because he's playing, but again, if he wants to elevate and stay at the top, he's 28. He's the peak of his powers. Why not go back and have one more crack? Yeah, It was at Burnley. He started at Burnley, yeah, for 4 years. Yeah, I thought so. And then obviously had a few loan spells and yeah, played Melbourne Cities in Belgium and then New York. So yeah, look, if he's ever going to go back to Europe, he'll have to go now. He's 28 at the peak of his powers. Once he gets back from injury, of course.
All right, let's go to a few of the attacking midfielders. Connor Metcalf. He's been linked to a few clubs after a stellar performance at the World Cup. Where do you think he'll land, or will he stay at St. Pauli?
No, I don't think he'll stay. Look, I think he should go to Championship. He's a good player, isn't he? Like he's very handy. So yeah, I think go and test yourself. You want to go play somewhere. He just got held back too much at St. Pauli. He lost a lot of time, and I don't think he would be happy at St. Pauli. I think he needs to move on.
All right, Nestor and Kunda, heavily linked to Sporting in Portugal, which would be a massive move playing in the Champions League, sorry. Looked like that deal was just about done during the week, but seems to be some things holding it up. Hull City still think they're in with a chance, but it doesn't look like he's going to be at Watford.
No, I reckon go for Portugal, like you said, Chief Champions League. There's the big three over there, isn't there, in Portugal? Porto, Sporting, and Benfica. You know, all three of those teams only lost 4 games last year in total, so they don't often lose, and they're always in Europe at not the end, but definitely just before that point. You
Well,
know,
they
in
made
the rounds.
quarterfinals last year, didn't they?
Yeah, yeah, like they're always
Yeah,
around that mark, aren't they?
yeah.
Porto round and Benfica and Sporting. So yeah, round of 16, quarterfinals, round of 32. So it'd be incredible for his development. I think that's a really good league to go to for his development, and I think he'll get plenty of opportunity over there. So yeah, I don't look. I like him in the championship, but I think there's if he wants to improve his game style and his technique, mate, Portugal would be a great place to go.
I heard someone say as well that Sporting in particular are very good at recruiting, developing players, and selling them on for a higher fee. So they'd certainly be looking at Aaron Kunda to bring him in for that purpose and see if they could get, obviously, his playing quality while he's there, but then a big transfer fee on the back of it. So yeah, be interesting to see what happens with Aaron Kunda. I'm kind of refreshing my phone every single morning when I wake up, expecting some Aaron Kunda news, but nothing as yet. I suppose we'll just wait and see what happens in the next couple of weeks. Ajdin Hrustic, we mentioned already, has moved to the UAE. Christian Valpardo at Sassuolo. Would you expect him to stay in Italy or look for another move somewhere else?
Mid-table team. He's been there since 2023. I'd probably say one more year. 63 games. Is that probably enough? Probably not. He's starting to get into that age where he'd want to start, but he's got to push that his ability to the limit. So I think that's a comfortable club for him at the moment. I think he's got a lot to prove over there if he wants another move. But I think it's a good club to be at.
Nishan Velupillay at Melbourne Victory. There was a bit of conjecture over whether he was still contracted at Melbourne Victory, but I think the latest from what I've seen is that he does have one more season at Victory.
I'd like to see him go to J League or something and really try to test himself in the Asian market. I think that's probably his best move. Would he go to Scotland Championship? I just like for his playing style. It's like Milanovic, yeah, winger or off the shoulder of a striker. I think go to. I think what can he improve on? Probably a little bit of technique there that we've seen in the World Cup. Go to J League. I think that'd be a good opportunity to improve over there.
Right, Matt Leckie, I saw rumours that he has signed a
Yeah.
one-year deal with Melbourne
Yep.
City.
Yep. He's re-signed. He'll stay there, and he'll probably finish his career now at the A League there.
A1 Mobile, Castellon in the second division in Spain.
Yeah, he got some game time there. He was going okay, and they were pushing for promotion last year. So I think for his ability, that's a good league to be in. No shame in the second division there. It's a pretty good league. So yeah, he was getting some good game time, and that's how he got back in the Socceroos. So I think that's a good situation for him to be at.
All right. And then the strikers, Mohamed Toure, obviously only moved to Norwich in January. Obviously, would expect him to stay there and hopefully get his body right and have a good season at Norwich, continue that goal scoring form.
Yeah, he was on fire, wasn't he? Yeah, probably underutilized for the Socceroos, but definitely will get plenty of opportunity at Norwich. They're a good side, Norwich. They'll bouncing back strong after a poor start last year. I reckon he can challenge for the Golden Boot for the championship, Chief. I think if he can stay fit, and that will be his big challenge. And the championship can be brutal, can't it, on the body? So, yeah, it is a risk, that league, for his body. But geez, I reckon if he stays fit, Chief, I reckon you're going to see him in the top 5 of those goal scoring charts over there in the championship.
Did you say probably underused at the World Cup?
Well, completely underused. How's that? Definitely underused.
Okay. Thank you for clarifying.
No, it's
All
okay.
right. Last one, Teddy Yengi. He has obviously signed permanently at Machida Zovia in Japan. So, yeah, look, interesting going back through that list. There's a few that we think might still be moving, a few that have moved already, but we did say right from the start that this World Cup was going to be a big shopping window for these Socceroos, and so it's proven to be so far.
Yeah, absolutely. And I reckon there's probably 3 or 4 players in that list that are going to be at risk in the next 12 months. I think the next generation's coming through fast. So, you've got some aging stars there and some obviously players that have made some interesting moves already. So I think there's 3 or 4 opportunities, or maybe 5 spots up for grabs in that Asia Cup.
Yeah, well, as you said before, we'll get a very good preview into it. There are obviously some injuries as well, but when we have that series against Brazil in Queensland, with which I hear the tickets are selling very well, so good on the public for getting behind that one as well. That'll be quite the spectacle when Brazil come out, and hopefully they bring somewhere near their best squad, even if it's not their top caliber. But hopefully we see some exciting stars come out and they can put on a good show for the public to come out to see those games.
Yeah, definitely. Nearly sold out. I think they released their last allocation that they had left. So yeah, I don't think there'll be a spare seat in the house for those games.
All right, mate. Let's go domestic football. As I said in the opener, we still have the APL and the PFA butting heads. This was from an article from Football 360 during the week. APL and the PFA have been negotiating over a new 1-year CBA, which was designed to buy time for both parties to have meaningful collaboration over a recovery plan for a competition with financial issues and another with a sizable commercial opportunity. It's understood the players' focus was on embedding a commitment to reform in the new CBA, ideally while maintaining stability for the A League men and improving conditions for the A League women. So, look, mate, we do have a bit of time before the start of the season, but ideally we want to get this collective bargaining agreement done sooner rather than later, just so that everyone knows where they're standing. That's the APL, PFA, and the clubs themselves, and the players, of course.
Yeah, they've got a lot of work to do, haven't they? There's a lot of matters that need to be sorted out. Yeah, we said last year, the 2 CEOs that are new in the role that have been appointed, they've got their probably biggest challenge yet, because yeah, where they go and what they do. And I've got no doubt that the PFA, who made some really strong points last year around where they think we need to go, and I'm right behind the report that they pulled out for the women, and what the A League needs. It's unfortunately just the financial problem, isn't it? That I believe it is. It always has been for Australian football. So we know the Australian football's been covering the debts of the APL, and the APL are no doubt financially concerned about broadcast money, and it's a big problem, and it's been a big problem probably for the last ever since the APL started this new route, hasn't it? And yeah, it's geez, I don't know if we're going to see any short-term gain here. I think there's going to be a lot of pain before we see any relevance or success with the A League, because I think I'm just glad that the football is doing the talking last year, and we've seen a lot of kids and a lot of great opportunities given and some exciting football, because in the background, it's not looking healthy, is it?
No, I tend to agree with you. And look, I just hope that everyone can get on the same page. And it's hard for certain people to be demanding money if the money's not there. And I think, and we always speak about these things for the betterment of the game in the country. We just need to try and get on the same page and get aligned, and hopefully they can do that before the start of the season. And then, oh, look, if they can't, I suppose there'll be contingencies put in place. But let's hope that it doesn't interrupt the season and everyone can get at least close to what they want out of this agreement in total.
Yeah,
All
we've
right,
got
mate.
a little bit of sorry, mate. We've got a little bit of time, but not much. That's the only probably saviour, hasn't it? Like the season's not on top of us now, but it soon will be. And yes, we've got some challenges as we discussed. Sorry, mate, to cut in. Go for it.
No, you're right, and I'll just add to your point as well, because we haven't seen the A-League women's draw, and I'm sure that's contingent on the Mariners getting owners sorted out as well. So, yeah, bit of work to do in the domestic game for sure.
All right, let's talk about what is working and what is exciting because we've seen the Han Australian Cup. Chief, talk us through the results. Absolute sensational round obviously last week or the end of the week this week. So talk us through.
Yeah, let me start with Tuesday, and the biggest shock of the round. Although Preston Lions are a big club in the NPL landscape, but geez, to knock out the holders, the Newcastle Jets, 3-2. The Jets were up 2-0, carried that lead into half time, but Preston came storming back, picking up an equaliser, and then in stoppage time, almost with the last kick of the game, scored that third goal to knock out a pretty strong Jets side. We know that the A-League teams are obviously out of season, only really just coming back to training now, but a massive result for Preston Lions to knock out the Jets.
Yes, we all know the ambitions of Preston, and they were always going to be a tough one to crack, weren't they? And we must admit, state league teams have been in season for a long time. They're coming towards the end of their season, so it was always going to be an advantage for some of these state league sides. And obviously, Newcastle were probably a bit of lack of preparation and fitness why they collapsed at the end there. See their defending champions gone. But what a great night for Preston! I seen the chants and the singing and the fans on the field. Went Preston. That's what it's all about, isn't it? And that's what Cup football brings us, and onward to Preston as they move forward in this competition.
All right. Also on Tuesday night, we saw Lions FC also knock out an A-League team, that being Perth Glory. After 1-1 in extra time, Lions beat the Glory 4-2 on penalties. And remember last season, Mopper, the Perth Glory did not have a good preseason leading into the start of the A-League season, which meant David Zulich only lasted 2 games. And I'm sure Adam Griffiths, although this is very early in their preparation, would have liked to have got a result here and still got some competitive football as part of the preseason program.
Yeah, it's not good, is it? Out of all the clubs that probably needed it the most, would have been the ones that finished in the lower leagues, lower end of the ladder last year. But yeah, they've been beaten in penalties. But again, credit to Lions FC. Another great story, and Perth still got some plenty of work to do. How that pans out, well, they've got a couple more months to try to fix that one.
All right, still on Tuesday, Heidelberg, a comprehensive 3-0 win over Cumberland United. Obviously, Heidelberg finishing runners-up in that competition last season. And we saw Sydney FC pick up comprehensive 5-1 win over Bayswater City SC. Tiago Quintal, our guy mopper, had an outstanding match along with Acola Con. Those two are going to be very exciting for Sydney FC this season.
Yeah, well, we've seen his form late last year really hit the heights of his potential, wasn't it? And great to see what a great few goals he scored. And yeah, we're in for a banger this year, aren't we? He's gonna put on some superlatives. The young kids of Sydney too. There was a lot of youngsters in that squad, and they did a great job. Totally outplayed Bayswater, and Sydney move on strong. And this next game, Chief, Wednesday at 7:30. I watched this one. I couldn't take my eyes off it. It was Sydney United, the Central Coast Mariners. Central Coast scored first. Sydney United come back, 1-1, and penalty shootout was absolutely amazing. I thought, oh, here we go. We've got the World Cup champion in Redmayne, and I thought, well, that'll give Central Coast the upper hand. But the quality of this penalty shootout, I wish we had nearly every player kicking it for the Socceroos at the World Cup because they absolutely were clinical in the corners. And unfortunately, the young 17-year-old hit the bar at the end. Not over, not saved. Hit the bar. The poor fella only needed 1 out of 22, and that one hit the bar. And Sydney United pulled off a great. I wouldn't say upset. Sydney United, one of the inaugural clubs in the national competition, and performed really well. So Central Coast got a lot of young players there too, so we'll see a few more rising stars from the Mariners. But good on Sydney United winning 11-10 in the penalty shootout, and I couldn't take my eyes off that game, and it was all the way to the end. So congratulations to both sides. I thought they put on a great performance. The standard of that game was very high, and it was fast paced too. So it was good game to watch.
Mariners are recruiting pretty well, particularly young this off season. So I'll be very interested to see how they go in the upcoming A-League season because there's some exciting young talents that they've picked up from some other clubs, which is generally their style. They like to recruit and develop and sell them on. So looking forward to watching the Mariners this A-League season. Also on Wednesday we saw Maitland FC. They went down 2-1 to Fremantle City FC, and then the A-League teams in action, comprehensive wins for Western Sydney Wanderers 2-0 over Tigers FC, and then MacArthur FC beat Azuri United FC 3-0 in that one. Nice for Mile Sejovski to give a debut to his son, Sonny Sejovski, in that one, so that was a nice moment. And then just this afternoon, we saw Melbourne City beat Western Workers 3-0. Was 1-0 in that one until late on in the match before they scored those second and third goals. And then Melbourne Victory beating Kingborough Lions 4-0 in the final game for today. But there's some interesting fixtures coming up, Mopper, because we've still got a few A-League clubs in action, and I wouldn't mind tipping there might be a couple more cup sets because South Melbourne are hosting Adelaide United on Thursday night, and then Sydney Olympic, they're hosting Brisbane Roar. So I could see both of those A-League clubs going down potentially.
Yeah, Sydney Olympic haven't had a great year this year, but Brisbane Roar I think will win. I definitely like South Melbourne's chances, especially Adelaide has a Champions League qualifier coming up on the, I think, 7th or 11th. I think that's where they'll be. They'll probably use this as a hit out to try to prepare for that. I definitely like South Melbourne. I think they've got a very strong squad in the Vic MPL, and I think they're a powerhouse as they proved last year. So, look, I think Adelaide's going to have a hard time. South Melbourne are coming 5th in that league in the MPL Victoria, but, Oakley Cannons obviously miles out in front of that one, but we know the prestigious South Melbourne, what they can do on the night. But I don't know about Brisbane. I think Brisbane will, I think they'll have a good game, but I don't think they'll be challenged. And I know you might think that's, away from home, but I think they'll be too strong for Sydney Olympic.
Okay, fair enough. But look, exciting action in the Australia Cup, and it's always nice for the narrative to see some of these cup sets pop up now and again. And it's going to make for a very intriguing round of 16 when we see so many of the MPL clubs getting in there, and we'll see where the draw lands. We might see some A-League versus A-League clubs and knocking each other out. So we've been very interesting to see.
Who's your tip?
Oh, going early. Let me go. I'll go Sydney FC.
Sydney FC. Okay, no worries. I'm going the Victory, Chief. Victory.
Okay, all right.
Going the Victory, and I look forward to seeing Heidelberg's giant run again this year and see where they land, see if they can beat some A-League teams on the way after their comfortable 3-0 win the other week. So, I'm sure there'll be plenty more upsets, but, we'll see what happens. Sydney Olympic, Come on, Chief. Do your homework. They're coming last in MPL. So
Fair enough, mate. All right, another big week in Australian football. Thank you, everyone, for listening. Thank you for your time, Mopper. We'll be back on Sunday next week to wrap it all up again. But in the meantime, enjoy your football.
All the best, everyone.